Hello, my name is John Reynolds. Welcome to Extraordinary Life Stories. On this episode, I'm talking with DJ Fat Tony. DJ Fat Tony is a legendary figure in the music and nightlife scene with a larger-than-life personality and infectious humour. Growing up in London's vibrant club scene, Tony has battled severe drug addiction, coming close to death after a near-fatal overdose. Incredibly, he turned his life around, overcoming addiction to become one of the most in-demand DJs today and a firm favourite with the A-list celebrities. I'm really looking forward to talking with Tony, so let's get into it. Tony, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
Tell me, who is DJ Fat Tony?
Good question. If you'd asked me that 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't have been able to answer it honestly because I wouldn't have known. DJ Fat Tony is a very self-aware, loving, caring guy. And you know, that's not me sitting here thinking that I'm not unhumble or any of those things. It's because I know who I am today and I'm very aware of who I am. Yeah.
I love that. There's a contentment without being arrogant there.
Well,
I love it.
There's no space for arrogance in that because it's not an arrogant statement. It's a factual statement. I actually know who I am for the first time in 58 years. I know who I am.
Congratulations, because so many of us don't, right? I'm still finding out. I'm in a good place now. I've been in bad places before. Same for you, same for you. Take me back to a young Tony growing up. Who and what were the early influences for your career and life decisions?
I think the earliest influence for me was my auntie, who was an alcoholic, that used to throw bottles at buses, cider bottles. And for me, she was probably the most amazing character I'd ever met because it was an energy that it was chaos, and I was drawn to chaos. You know, I had a very different situation going on in my house. My dad was also an alcoholic, but he wasn't an open alcoholic. He would just binge drink at weekends, and it was a different scenario altogether.
Darker energy?
I would say much more under the radar energy, whereas my aunt was chaos. So for me, I was so excited. I was drawn to that rebellion. I was drawn to that, like, you know, for me, it was the most exciting thing. So I think she was probably my Auntie Jenny was probably one of my earliest aspirations.
Yeah, and where did the music come into it then?
That was always there because, you know, I was the middle one of three boys. So my older brother was always playing music in his room. My younger brother was always playing music in his room. And I was always complaining because it was always a blend of different sounds. And my dad would always play music on a Sunday. So we had Roy Orbison, Jim Reeves, Elvis, going into electro, going into lovers rock, going into everything. So there was always music within our house.
Imagine walking around the house.
And also my great-grandmother and my grandmother were both classical pianists and teachers. So the music was always within our family.
That's interesting. And then you were growing up with Boy George and other people that were all in the music scene.
Yeah, I mean, it was all by chance. I mean, look, I grew up around fashion. It was mainly about fashion. And then the music was an offshoot of all that fashion. So, you know, back then, fashion kind of led music, you know, with punk, with New Romantics. It was all about what you wore, and then the music came second. So a lot of people think it was all about the music. No. The movement and the tribes came before. And then when people kind of met that had like-minded, you know, the Sex Pistols weren't born the Sex Pistols. They came out of a time where people were dressed as punks, and there were 5 like-minded punks that wanted to create music, and they had someone that run a shop that decided to make that band. So, you know, that's how it comes. So for me, it came from fashion, then it became music. I was always excited by fashion.
Yeah, it's interesting. And to be sort of almost fast forwarding to now from a fashion point of view, from an icon point of view, if you flip that back to the education side, a young Tony at school, were you inspired? Did you feel you weren't academic? And
I wasn't. I didn't fit in. You know, people use the word ADHD really too much these days because they hide behind it. It's like everything. ADHD is the new pulled pork. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I've got ADHD, so therefore I'll behave like a complete.
It's almost an excuse. It's an excuse to try and get famous as well now.
Well, you know, a lot of people do podcasts about it. A lot of people do podcasts around being abstinent from alcohol when you know for well they're not. Or they're trying to sell you something by saying that they're sober. And, you know, it's kind of the given. But, you know, the thing for me was at that point in time, my dyslexia and my ADHD, it was unnamed. I was a problem child. I was unteachable because I didn't have an attention span.
And there was no room in the system for
And there
that,
was
there?
no room, and apart from get out of the classroom and go and sit outside the headmaster's office, which led to boredom, which led to me thinking, I'm not going to stay here. And of course, you know, I found, like you always do in any part of your life, you find your people. I found my people. I found the most troublesome kids in the school, the biggest bullies in the school, because I always knew I was gay. There was never a problem with that for me. I never had to hide it. You know, when I went to secondary school, I had curly perm down to my literally yeah, it was there.
That
The
makes
signs
that
were there.
authenticity, which is what it is, right?
Yeah,
You've had that from such a young age. And
I've always had it. I think that it was encouraged by my mum. My mum was never one of these people that tried to discourage who I was.
That's the best education you could ever have,
100%.
right? Yeah, and you carry that through.
100%. I remember my mum once said to me about 15, 20 years ago, she said to me, the doctor always told me he was gay from the age of 2. And I was like, oh, he diagnosed me as gay, did he? She was kind of, you know, it always makes me laugh that a doctor told my mum I was gay. My mum always knew.
Yeah, I mean, in sort of preparing to film with you today, I read a lot about you. Spoke to different people like Tanya, who's kindly connected us. And your mum's a massive influence. And not just embracing and encouraging you to be authentic, but also when you basically went off the rails, if you could call it that, because everyone's
there were no rails.
That's what I was going to say. So I backed out. And who wants rails anyway?
When I went off the cliff.
Yeah. But you were effectively at one point spiraling into death.
Yeah.
At a very young age, and it's a big part of your story. But how did you stop and then come out and flourish?
I think that, like anything with someone like me, it has to get so bad that it can't go on any further. You know, it
pushed to the limit.
There's a thin line between life and death, and you have to take it to that point where it becomes so painful. I.e., you know, there's been many parts of my using and my destruction where I'd like pull my teeth out, or I spend months in hospital, or just ignore situations and let them get worse and worse and worse until it gets to the point of almost death. That only then does the change come. But I think when it came to the end of the line with addiction, after 28 years of using and abusing everything that I came into contact with, and I don't say that lightly, it was hell. The last 10 years of my using was absolute hell, but it was my hell. So that's what kept it going. And, you know, I knew no better. It was a learned behavior that I'd overstudied, and I got to the point of no return. And all I thought about at that point every day was dying and my funeral, who was going to come.
Well, you literally visualised it?
Yeah, every day. I did a different guest list weekly for my funeral.
Were you DJing?
Music? No, I'd chosen the music that I wanted to be burnt to, and all of these things. It was literally a day that, in a way, it was kind of all I had to look forward to, because it was kind of like, then I could rest.
Wow.
And
almost like you wanted it. You're manifesting
yeah,
something.
Of course.
Was that an escape? Were you that unhappy, or were you actually?
Happiness doesn't come into it. It's addiction. You know, your addiction wants you dead, regardless of whether it's heroin, crack,
pulling you down,
food, debt, gambling, all of these things that we work. You know, workaholics will work themselves into the early grave, because that's addiction. Addiction wants you dead. And, you know, I fought against addiction, you know, but I also fought against living. So I was like at loggerheads.
So what broke through then? Because you described that so well. It's like chains holding you down. Like you can't.
It really was.
But you broke those chains. How did you get out?
Just a God-given moment that changed everything. You know, I was in a place, rocking backwards and forwards, where I was completely insane. And by this point in time, I'd already removed all my teeth except for one at the front, which was with screwdrivers and pliers. And I literally had a thing called meth mouth, where I thought I had animals living in my mouth. My insanity was so off the scale that I would rock backwards and forwards just so I could feel calm, or I thought I could feel calm. And that one night I was in the right place at the right time, and my partner at the time came in and literally For years, we'd been at loggerheads of him coming to places that I was using, and then he'd be like, you know, you're going to find him dead on your toilet floor. You need to stop him working here. And I'd be like, bar him, he's insane. And it would be just chaos. And that night, it wasn't chaos. That night, there was a real difference. He came in and he put his hand on my shoulder after I'd robbed his house that day. I burgled his house. And I thought, okay, he's come looking for me to start a fight. He wants his jeans back and he wants his car.
So you're ready for confrontation?
Oh, I just sat there and thought, I can't deal with this, I can't deal with this, I can't deal with this. And he put his hand on my shoulder and literally said, what happened to you? And it makes my hair stand on him, because that was the change. That was like, I looked at him and I burst out crying and was like, I couldn't answer the question. I just said, I've got to leave. And we left. And then 2 days later was that magical moment of when I opened my mouth and said, I need help. And I went to my GP, first port of call for me, and I said to him, Dr. Paul, who'd been quite a good doctor because he wouldn't give me what I wanted at that point in time. And
it's quite unusual as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, you know, and he'd be like, no, you're not having sleeping pills. No, you're not having these, because he knew. But and I said to him, I need help. And he said, I've been waiting for 4 years for you to say this to me.
What a good doctor.
And I said, why did you not ever offer me help? He said, because you had to be ready. And he got me straight away into a drug rehabilitation centre, which was in City Road in London. And from there, I went weekly, daily. There was a part of me that wanted to live. It was like that moment that I was asked what happened to me was when the pilot light came back on. It literally came back on. And from there, it was for me, it was a long drawn process. Like it took 4 months for me of trying before I went to rehab. And then I finally went to rehab, and I was in rehab for 6 months. And then I came back to London. I don't use the word back because for me, I don't go back to anything. So when the last day of treatment or rehab, they were like, okay, you know, they sit you down in front of like 30 people that you've been in treatment with, and they all go around the room saying, oh, what a nice guy you are. And it's like, yeah, thanks, you've known me 2 days. But, you know, and they tell you about how far your journey's come, which is great, because it's a pat on the back that you at that point in your life you need, because no one's ever patched a junkie on the back, unless it's the police wanting to arrest you for shoplifting, you know. But at that point in time, it was like it was a room full of people showing you love and gratitude. And they said to me, you can't go back to London, and you can't go back to DJing, and you can't go back to that relationship. And I was like, you're very right. I said, I'm not going back to any of it, I'm going forward. And I kind of, was where the journey started, because it was always about going forward.
I love that. But you had such a long-formed habit. You've now got this realization moment and the whole I'm not going back there. What have you put in place to practice it? Because it's like the gym, isn't it? If you want to muscles, you lift weights all the time. If you want to, what works for you that keeps you, like going right back to when you first started question, who are you? Fully present and kind of in the moment. And
I think for me today, back then when I came out of treatment, it was a whole different story altogether.
Sure. Because
there's been many parts to my recovery that have led to me finding recovery. Because when we get clean, that's great. We put down the drink and the drugs and we're no longer using. You know, as I say, you know, you take the alcohol out of Christmas fruitcake and what you're left with, fruitcake, right? And I was a fruitcake. Recovery only comes when you do the work, right? There's change. Change comes from small changes, and hope suddenly becomes, so much more. And, you know, it's about putting one foot in front of the other constantly and not moonwalking backwards, because it's really easy. You know, as I say, you put down the drink and the drugs or whatever it is you're using, and, you know, suddenly you're like, oh my God, how do I cope? Because we use them to cope. They were coping mechanisms. And suddenly life on life's terms is really bloody hard for anyone. And I had to start at the very beginning. I had to start back. I had to learn who I was, who I thought I was at that point in time. There's been many versions of me that lead to the one that I'm in now. And it's, you know, I'll be in January, January the 10th, 2025, I'll be 18 years clean and sober.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And those 18 years has been a journey within itself of discovery. And what keeps me clean today is the fact that I don't want to use drink or drugs. That's as simple as that. But what keeps me sane is a totally different thing altogether.
Yeah. How important has the sort of people around you been, from going back to those school days and probably the whole time that you were, consumed in that addictive state, to then the tribe you've got around you now? And you've got a much bigger tribe than the people just that sort of looking at social media and so on. The humour you put out, it's brilliant. Since I've been following you, I laugh out loud at some of the things you put out there. You've got a load of people around you that love you in an inner circle and beyond.
I'm blessed.
How important is that?
I'm really blessed. I think that the world that we live in now with social media and everything that we post on social media and what we put out on social media, if you put out a load of negative stuff on social media, you're going to get negativity back. I think it's about posting positive stuff. It's about showing the world that you can laugh at your own mistakes. I laugh at everything I do. I mean, literally, some days I can fly off the handle for 2 hours and then I'll be at home later on and I start laughing. I think, what were you doing?
So you're just not taking it too seriously.
Totally. And you just think, what? But that years ago would have gone on for months and years, if not, not a couple of hours. I would have, because I didn't know how to control my emotions. I didn't know how to control those thoughts. I'm not in control of that first thought, but I am the second and the third. And it's always the second and the third that lead us into trouble. So if I get that first thought, I kind of just have to step back from it now. Listen, I ain't no saint, right? As all my inner circle and friends will tell you. When I go. And then I reel it back in. I think, oh, what have you just done? It's a learnt behaviour, and those learnt behaviours take a lifetime of change.
Yeah, but at the heart of it, it's authenticity.
Yeah.
Like if you look at Tanya again, when I said, is there anyone you know that would be interesting for me to talk to? And she got to know me and got an interesting story, and she just literally said, you have to speak. And it's that whole, you can tell her face lit up, you've got people around you that love you. They think you're awesome. And I think, are we missing authenticity in the world of influencers?
Of course we are.
TikTok.
I think the word that we are really missing is honesty. I think people aren't honest. They don't need to be honest on social media. They can tell you that they're away having the best time in their life because they posted 3 pictures, but really they're probably sitting in their flat in Bradford. This is a situation in the world that we believe in.
Not just that, I've seen it, you go on holiday, I used to take the kids to Dubai and you'd see, they were sort of 8, 9, 10 years old at the time. You'd see a 15, 16-year-old girl looking miserable at that point, and then all of a sudden, massive smile. And she'd be, and then go back and the face would drop. So whatever she put out wasn't actually, she just sat there bored.
Yeah, I mean, I come from a time where we had to do something to have a platform. We had to, either have a real talent to become successful. That's not the case anymore. And I think that people hide behind other people's success via social media. And I think that the world isn't honest. There's not many honest people in it, which is, we live in a world where we're pumped full of fear constantly, daily. And I think that, when lockdown happened around the world and we were in those troubled times, we were pumped full of fear constantly to keep us in our houses, to keep us set on our chairs. That's evolved now. That evolves, keeps on evolving. New fears come, new things to be scared of, new this, new that. And we live in a world where people are scared, to be honest, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Sad, isn't it?
It really is. And hopefully in about 10 years' time, we'll look back on these times and just think, what the hell was all that about?
I hope that, because it's almost out of control now.
Totally
TikTok, I think 87% of the information that's given out about mental health and how close is that to you and I for so many reasons as an interest. 87% of the information given out by influencers that are probably paid for by TikTok is inaccurate, it's misleading.
Of course.
But how have you managed to stay so relevant and so successful? And I know that the ego won't allow you to, but you are a favourite of the A-listers. There's so many people you can name playing at their weddings and their parties.
I think
where's that come from?
I think the A-listers are one very small part of what I do, and and I'm very blessed, and I'm very, very, very thankful that they love me. But the real success comes from putting smiles on people's faces, doing what I do, playing music to people, and know my role. I know my role. I'm not a superstar. I'm not up there trying to be anything other than the most insecure person playing that music to other insecure people trying. And I read energy, and I think that my success comes from the fact that I'm just who I am. I don't
That's
drive
what works
around
for
in
you,
flash
though.
cars. I don't do all of these things. Yeah, I like to buy nice clothes, or I like to look good. I'm 58. I need to look good. Do you know what I mean?
You
I
do
can't
look
be
good.
that guy with a pot belly, and I can't be that guy because I don't want my job or my life to end. I don't want my career to be over.
You can feel that. You can feel that
For
coming
me,
from you.
whenever I talk about things, I don't get to that point where I'm tired. I'm hungry. I want more. And I'm just about to release music. I'm about to do so many things that that were just bucket list things, and they're becoming reality because it's all about that one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, I love that. You've mentioned success. I've mentioned success in context of you as well. Sitting here now, what is your definition of success?
Success for me is freedom. It's freedom from waking up and thinking, God, you're old and you're fat or you're over the hill and no one likes you. Success is waking up and thinking, today's going to be a really good day. Today I'm going to, and just feeling really content. And, I don't have to look over my shoulder. I don't have to worry about things that no one never needed to worry about. For me, I have freedom. I have self-respect. I have love. I'm lovable. That makes my hair stand on end on its own because I was never lovable. I was always likable. I wanted everyone to like me. I never ever wanted anyone to love me, because to love me was the other end of the spectrum of intimacy. It was to love someone, you have to know them. You have to be intimate. You have to know that thing. You can think that you love someone. You see someone, I go, oh my God, I love him. That's not love. That's lust and love are two different things, and to adore someone is another thing. But for me, I have love in my life. I'm getting married next year. What the hell? That would never have ever happened 5, 6 years ago, because I was never in a place that I could ever be with one person, because I was so consumed by I was so inadequate in so many levels, because I didn't know who I was.
No, it goes right back to when we first talked about the fact that you've got that now and you know that, and it's taken 56 years to get there, right?
And a book.
Yeah,
but
of course.
And I just think that the more honest we are in life, the more easier it gets.
Yes.
Because a lot of people struggle with honesty because they don't want to upset people. I'm really honest and brutally honest all the time. And I find other people might not agree with this, but I tend to think that I don't really upset that many people anymore. I think I used to upset more people when I was in a different place of lying and cheating and all of that stuff, thinking I was getting away with it. But that hurt more people.
People can start off with a lie, and then it carries a whole thread and train.
It's another addiction.
Starting off with honesty, it might upset someone but then you've got a chance to explain why you're saying it. There's countless things I can think. Well,
100%.
Yeah. And it's authenticity again.
It is, and it's as I say, most of that stuff comes from a place of fear.
Yes. And you mentioned, again, 58, looking good, feeling good. What works for you? Because I can see that, right? But what is it? And I mean mentally and physically, right?
Yeah, it's really important, both of those things.
So what do you do to keep both mentally and physically fit?
For me, physical, obviously, I'm at the gym, I'm working out, I hate it. I hate going to the gym. I hate that walk to the gym. I'm like, oh God.
But you make yourself do it.
But I do it. And then when I leave, I feel great. I've never left the gym thinking, I'm never doing this again. The 2 days after, when my legs are killing me, I think, I'm not doing legs again. All of that stuff. But, I know the bigger picture. And I see the bigger picture. Mentally, I think it's really important to have me time. I think it's really important. There's been many times this summer alone where I've been traveling so much and flying 2 or 3 times a week, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not moaning about. I'm blessed to do it. It's incredible. But there comes a point where I think, right, I'm frazzled. I need to step back from this. And
you recognise that.
I have a really good people around me that recognise it also, that say, okay, Tony needs to stop now. And it's about taking that time out, because whereas before, if I took a weekend off or a day off work, I didn't know how to stop. So therefore, I'd be on social media thinking, oh my God, my career's over. Everyone else is working. Everyone else is on the beach. Everyone else is doing this. And I'm stuck in my flat. And that's how you sort of, now I have this real gift of JOMO. The joy of missing out is an incredible thing.
I love the way you framed that. That's good.
Just to go and walk with my dog in the park, or just go to the local coffee shop with all the mums from the school is the most freeing thing in the world. And I do that every morning. You go, oh God, do you not like go so-and-so like to the Wolseley for breakfast? I'm like, no, I'm at my local cab with all the mums from the school and off the estate. I live in an area where you have rich and poor and everything, all living. You have people that have lived there all their lives. It's a real sense of community, and I'm a part of that community.
I love that. And sitting here lean and
really
fit.
Important.
Oh, totally. Community tribe, I use that term. Who you're around, it stimulates you, you feed off them, and you're also giving to them as well, right?
Well, it's important.
Totally. But you're lean and fit sitting here now. Where's DJ Fat Tony come from?
Well, I was fat when I was a kid. It was yet again another castle that I built around myself so that no one would ever get close. I'd been abused as a child by not a family member, but someone else outside of that I talk about in that book. And then I suddenly became fat because I never ever wanted anyone ever to get near me again. So I built this castle around myself. And then of course, what happens is you get nicknames, like we give everyone. And that was my name behind my back. And I just thought, I'm owning that name. I'm going to be called Fat Tony.
And you just kept it, because you're such a different person now. And it works, right? It rolls. It's exactly how I've been introduced to you. But you never felt you wanted to change that because it takes you back to a time when...
I get it when people go, oh, you're not fat. You shouldn't call yourself Fat Tony anymore. I'm like, that's kind of it. What are you on about?
Yeah,
I've been Fat Tony all my life. I'm not exactly going to suddenly change.
Not going to change now. No, I get it.
That's what my work, my career is based on, that name. It's who I am.
Yeah.
I'm Tony at the end of the day. I meet people and they don't know how to address me. Certain people, Mr. Fat, and it's like, well, my name's Tony. It really me off when people call me Anthony. Oh God, that's the one that triggers me.
I can't imagine doing that.
Oh, people do it because it's on my puzzle. But so if I'm in a hotel and they call, hello, Anthony, can we? And I'm like, whoa. My great grandmother.
Glad I didn't do that.
No, my grandmother called me Anthony. Only when she wanted to scold me or tell me off. It's kind of like, that offends me more than fat.
No, I get it. I just wanted to know because I figured it was something to do with childhood and so on. But just sitting here now, you're clearly not fat. So you've played all around the world for so many different people, so many different gigs. Is there one that stands out? Is there one you've enjoyed the most?
Yeah, it's the one that hasn't happened yet.
I love this. You're always facing forward.
Listen, I've been blessed within my career to play and perform for some. We call them A-list or whatever they are. So many talented people I've played for around the world and continue to do that. And each gig every weekend, like the one just gone, this weekend I did a big festival and it was insane. It always gets better. Always gets better. Awesome. And it's how you allow that energy to make you feel that you get. Because when you DJ, you're standing there. My job is to take on that energy from the crowd and relay that energy back.
It's a skill.
And that's what reading a room does. I've been very blessed to do that all around the world and for so many different types of people. And I think that when people ask me what is the best gig I've ever done, I always say it's never happened yet because it's yet to come.
So is there one gig that you either know you haven't done yet or you almost want to sort of conjure up and create that you would sort of visualize and manifest?
I don't know. I'd probably say Pyramid Stage at Glastonbury. That's a good one to sign up. I never ever had goals before because I wasn't going to be around for a goal. Do you know what I mean?
I do know from what you said.
Didn't even have a football to kick to score a goal. Don't let alone having goals. It was very much about today. But now, for me, jobs come in all the time and we look at them and I'm like, yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do this. It gets better. Recovery just gets better.
Yeah. And at 58, maturity, perspective, what a life. flipping it back to not just a young Tony, but an aspirational DJ. A lot of kids would love to do what you do. What advice would you give?
Just love what you do. Love music. If you have that desire to want to play music and make people dance, then keep doing it and push for it. If you're just doing it because you want to do it for the gram or you want to do it for your ego, then just stop. You know, it's about, you know, for me, there's different types of DJs. There's DJs that play music, right? And there's DJs that feel music. And to play music, anyone can do. But to feel music is a different thing entirely. And it's about feeling that music and feeling the energy and transpiring that into what track will take that to another place. You know, and that's what my job is. And that's why the longevity of my career is, you know, I don't see an end to it because I love what I do.
You'll never retire.
Oh no, what's retirement?
Yeah, I love it.
It's, you know, age is just such you know, yet again, another fear-mongering thing. You know, it's like, you know, oh my God, you're coming up to 60, so you should retire. Who said so? I'm still 16. You know, I remember my partner once said to me, about his age, you got to take 2 years off for COVID. And I was like, I'm going to take 28 years off for addiction. So that makes me 31, and we'll keep it at 31.
I can feel that. You've got a youthfulness. You've got a proper twinkle in your eye.
No, I'm not going nowhere.
No, brilliant. Well, you've made time in a very busy schedule to film with me today, and I've loved it. Love getting to know you, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.